Welcome. In this session, we are going to discuss Voucher Wizard. With Voucher Wizard, we can create a new document, we can delete a document, we can activate a tag, set default accounts, activate due date, create new fields or columns in either header, body or footer, set display info. Through views, we can set default value, field-wise restriction condition, display field or column name as per the user, display field or column position as per the user, make any field read-only or hidden, width flexibility, and many more can be done through Voucher Wizard. We are going to discuss all these things. Let us assume we have to create one exclusive document for credit sales. We have to create one receipt document exclusively for cash receipt. Voucher Wizard will be available under the Transactions menu, where you will find Settings sub-menu. There you will find Voucher Wizard. So here we have an option called Create Document. To create a new document, we are using this. Choose the document, then use this Create Document. Here we got New Document Type 40. Rename this as Credit Sales. Select the menu position where the new document must be displayed. So I want this under Sales sub-menu. Just click on OK. So a document is created. Update. Close. Now you can view the newly created document similar to the sales invoice under the Sales sub-menu. As we have selected under the Sales sub-menu, it's created under the Sales. In the same way, if you want to create a new document of type receipts, then choose receipts and use this create document. So what must be the document name? Cash receipts. Where we want this new document. Choose the location. Let us assume we want this under cash and bank sub-menu. Click on OK, update, close. A new document is created called Cash Receipts. When a new document is created, it is better to have separate abbreviation to the new document so that it will be easy at the time of filter. Every invoice document consists of one layout and one screen, while receipts or payments or journal vouchers will have only layout. There will not be any screen for these documents. We have the option that we can change the layout or screen, or we can create the new layout, or we can create the new screen and assign those layouts and new screens to the created vouchers. To set the abbreviation for the newly created document, we are using this miscellaneous. So let us say we require the abbreviation for credit sale as CSL. For cash receipts, CRC. Like this, we can have our own abbreviation, a 3-character abbreviation. Next is, here it is using the existing layout or existing screen. So if the user requires a new layout or new screen, that can be created through this new layout or new screen. So let us create a new layout and new screen for this credit sales document. So the newly created layout, type the name. So what are the fields required in this layout? And in a new screen also. We have created a screen called screen 1. Now the newly created layout and screen we can assign to our newly created document. Already it's assigned. So user has an option, they can use any existing layout or they can create a new one. They can choose any existing screen or they can create a new one through this new screen. So we are creating through edit layout by giving some name over here. While for receipts document there will be only layout. So screen is not applicable for receipts, payments and journal kind of documents. So that's why new screen is deactivated here, and also you will find edit screen tab is not appearing for this kind of documents. That is applicable for only invoice kind of documents. Later on in the future, so if user wants to know under which document we have created this new document, for that it will display the base document over here, receipts 1201, so that the user will be able to know so by using which document they may have created this new document. Next is there are 8 tags available in Focus. Those 8 tags can be used in any of the documents. So here let us assume we require department tag in a payment document. So that too in a header. Choose the option as header and update. Now departments list will appear in header. If we have created any departments, then it will appear here. So there is one department called department 1. So we have created only one department, that's why it is showing one department. So we can activate any of the tag in any of the document through this header or body. Now I have activated the same in body, it will appear in body. Department for payment document is appearing in body. Next is here there is an option called bill-wise adjustments. So when a document is saved, either a receipt or sales invoice pertaining to any customer or vendor, then we are getting a window where we are picking the amount in place of new reference. So to avoid that window, we have this option. So for sales invoice, by default, if anyone wants to pick the amount every time in place of new reference, then this option must be selected, always new reference. Now we won't get that pick amount window. Without getting the window, the amount every time will be picked in place of new reference. While in case of payments or receipts, so the amount must be adjusted on a FIFO basis, first in first out basis. So for that receipts or payments document, we have to choose this auto adjust on FIFO. Now pick amount window will not appear directly, the amount will be picked towards the first bill first basis. In miscellaneous tab also there are few settings. Abbreviation, just now we discussed the abbreviation. So next, for any document we can set the default accounts. The purpose of setting default accounts is so that it gets automatically selected in the screen by saving the time of the customer. Not necessary to select the sales account and customer account once again in the screen. By default it will be loaded. That is the purpose of this default accounts. Next is to get the due date in the header, we are using this option. Don't read means due date will not appear. Read in the header, the due date will appear in the header. Read line wise, the due date will appear in the body. So we may have recorded the due date at the time of accounts creation. So for the customer A, we have given the credit days as 15 days. Let us assume we are preparing an invoice on say some 1st April. Now automatically after selecting the customer name, the due date is loaded as 16th April. In the customer master we have given the credit days as 15 days. So billing date plus credit days will be the due date. By default, this due date field will not appear. When we activate through Voucher Wizard, then only it will appear. If you require this due date in a body, then we have to use due date line wise. We have update FA checkbox. So for sales invoice, the accounts must be updated. That's why it must be checked. If we see for sales orders, this option is not checked. When we record any order entry from the customer, at that time, our accounts must not be updated. That's why the option is unchecked. So if anyone unchecks this option, now what happens? Even a sales invoice recorded in a focus will not update the accounts. So by default, it will be checked. Line wise account. By default, we are getting the sales account in the header. If we check this line wise account option, now we will be getting the sales account in body. Earlier, we were getting this sales account in header. So as we have checked this line wise account, now we are getting in body. If we uncheck this, again it will appear in a header itself. Sales account, now we are getting in header. Next is detailed posting. As we may have recorded entries in a line wise by selecting different sales accounts, we want the same posting to be happened into the accounts. In such cases, we have to check this detailed posting. Let us see with an example. Let us assume we are having two different sales accounts. One is sales account 4%, another sales account 14.5%. So in a sales invoice, we have an option that we can select as now we are getting the sales account in body. We can select so many sales accounts. Now when we check the customer account, so for the sales invoice 3, it is posted in a detailed way. So 10,000 against the sales account 4%, 10,000 against the sales account 14.5%. So when we check this detailed posting option, when we uncheck this detailed posting option, now I am receiving the entry. The same entry I have received. In a customer account, now it is showing only one single account. That is, now it's not a detailed posting to that particular account. Earlier it was detailed posting, now it is showing only the first account which we have selected in the screen. Though we have selected two different accounts, it is showing only the first account in the screen. So it depends on the client's requirement whether they want detailed posting or not. So as per the requirement, we have to check or uncheck. We have this option called don't restrict on login account. So at the time of user creation, we have an option that we can restrict for any user. We can restrict any particular group. Now the selected group will only appear for this user. In such a way it will be restricted. So for one document I want the exemption. I don't want the restriction. I want all accounts to be displayed. In such cases, don't restrict on login account. So earlier it was showing only vendors accounts. Now when I log in ABC, Apart from the vendors, it is showing all other accounts also. AAA, triple B, all these accounts are not under the vendors group, then also it is showing all the accounts. By default, if we uncheck the option, for receipts, if we uncheck the option, it is showing only the accounts of vendors. It's not showing other accounts, AAA, AB, triple B, all those accounts are not appearing now. In the same way, don't restrict on login tag. At the time of user creation, we have a login tag restriction facility also. So if we check this option, for this document, the login tag restriction facility will not be applicable. So next, automatic numbering. If anyone requires automatic numbering for this receipt document, so what must be the starting number? Just specify the number from where you want to start. If you want to have a date as a prefix, then choose this option, or login code as a prefix, we can choose. So next is change transaction date when authorized. In focus, we can set the authorization flow. Let us assume one user has recorded the transaction on 10th April. The higher official have approved the transaction on 15th April. So now when we check this option, change transaction date when authorized. So automatically the transaction date will become as a 15th April. If this is unchecked, it will remain unchanged as a 10th April only. So next is post exchange difference. All this exchange related we have discussed in a separate presentation called multi-currencies. Input currency in the document header, post exchange rate difference. So if you want to post the exchange rate difference in a receipt document, then for the receipt document we need to check this option. Don't allow editing of this document. The user will not be able to modify the entry if this option is checked. Print using default printer and format. If we check this option, not necessary to select the printer from the drop down or layout from the drop down. Directly it will be printed by saving the time. Next is don't input date. If we check this option, even the user will not be able to modify the date. So let us say this. For a receipt document, by default it's taking the system date, but user will not be able to modify the date. So input currency in the document header. To get the currency drop down in the header, input discount category. We have a separate discount master. So we may have created some discount categories over there in the discount master. Category 1. Those categories will appear in the drop down, so that the user will be able to select the category which is applicable for that particular customer. Post service tax. To post the service tax. Post exchange rate difference based on standard rate. Now the exchange rate will be posted basing on the standard rate. Post VAT. This is useful for the VAT module. If any document is a VAT document, then we have to check this option. Detailed display in summary bar. So a detailed information will be displayed. Input exchange rate. So the user will be able to input the exchange rate in the entry screen itself. Input currency in the body. If we check this option, currency drop down will appear in the body for only few documents. Date can't be prior to the previous document's date. So the purpose of this option is, so the user has recorded a 10 number entry on 10th April. So next time the 11 number entry, if he tries to record on 9th April, it will not accept when you check this option. By default it will accept. When you check this option, now you will not be able to make a entry, you will be getting a message like this. So let us see, our 3-number document is on 20th April. So if I try to prepare a entry, 4-number entry on 19th April, then we will be getting some message. Document date cannot be prior to the date of the previous document. This kind of message will appear and the user will not be able to proceed further. Next is to post the TDS. We are using this post TDS. We have this update stocks option. If we check this option, then only stocks will be updated. If we uncheck, the stocks will not be updated. Just we got the order from the customer. At that time, our stocks must not be updated. So the option is unchecked, so that inventory will not be updated. For sales invoice, so some of them they want to update their stocks from delivery note. In such cases, they have to check this option as a update stocks. For sales invoice, they can uncheck the option as their inventory is already updated from delivery note. Not necessary to once again update from the sales invoice. Let us assume we have to create 2 columns in body, one VAT, another excise duty, and one field in footer with the name service tax. Let us first understand how to enter the variables in focus. In any purchase or sale screen, up to gross, those are default columns. After gross, for every column, one input and one calculated value variable will be there. Whatever the user enters in a particular column will be stored in input variable. Basing on the formula, after calculation, it will be stored in another variable that is called calculated value variable. So for first column, the input variable starts from AA. For second column, it will be AB. Third, it will be AC, and so on. While calculated value variable starts from AU, AV, AW, and so on. So here in this example, so discount 5%, 5 is stored internally in AA. While after calculation, that is on 10,000, 5% comes to 500 rupees, 500 is stored in AU. That is the calculated value variable for the first column. So in place of formula, we have to define like gross into discount percentage, 10,000 into 5%. As our amounts are not fixed and discount percentage is not fixed, we can't enter the amounts directly. We have to use the variables for gross as well as discount. For gross, the variable is BV. It's a fixed. So we can use BV instead of 10,000. And for discount percentage, the variable is AA, as that is the input variable for discount. BV into AA%, as this amount must be internally stored with minus. That's why we have used the exclamation mark before the formula. Then only it will be stored with minus symbol, otherwise it will not be stored with minus symbol. As per the assumption, we have to create 2 columns. To create any extra column, we are using edit screen. So here you will find 2 columns are created by default. One is discount, another is others. We are creating the third column with the name VAT. What must be the name? Alias can be the same name. BV into AC%. As this is the third column, we are using AC here instead of AA or AB. Because of third column, we have to use AC over there. That is the input variable for VAT. So here round off, how many decimals required in that column? So we have to specify. If 3 decimals are required, then we have to use 0,001. So then where this new column must be created, we have to select the position. Let us assume we require this column after gross. That's why we have selected as after gross. If VAT percentage is fixed, then directly we can enter the percentage in place of preload. For every product, it will be 4% only. So even we can have some extra field in product master. We can pick the values from product extra field also. So we need to use the variables like TEA, TEB like that. Next is account to post. So if you want the amount to be posted to any particular account, then we need to select the account over here, to which account the amount must be posted. So input value we have used in place of formula. Calculated value variable we have to use in place of add to net. So that is for third column, the calculated value variable will be AW. In the same way, let us create excise duty column also. As this is the fourth column, that's why BV into AD% we have used. 2 decimals required. Position, we want this column after gross. And also in place of add to net, we have to specify the calculated value variable, that is UVWX. If you want the same values to be updated to the stock value also, then the same formula must be copied in place of add to stock value. VAT and excise duty will also be included into the stock value. To create footer fields, we are using this part, that is footer inputs part. Just type the name on which name a extra field is required. Service tax, this is a calculative field. So if you don't know the variables for any of the newly created column or any of the newly created field, we can view through create formula. So here you will find body column. So for VAT the input is EAC, as we have discussed. The calculated value will be stored in AW, that's why we have used AW over there. While for excise duty the input we have used is AD, while calculated value is AX. So in the same way for footer fields also it will display the variables. So for that we are using this footer. The input is GA and while the calculated value is GK. So here on gross amount some service tax is to be calculated. So let us assume BV into GA%. And automatically the amount will be added to the net. Not necessary to specify the calculated value variable for footer fields. So for only body fields, we need to specify the calculated value variable in place of add to net. For footer fields, it's not required. Now those two extra columns and footer field is created. Let us see. Let us check. Gross is 10,000. When I enter 4%, automatically 10,400. 400 is added. In the same way, if we enter any service tax percentage, that will be added. So service tax 1,000 rupees, now net is 11,000 rupees. In the same way, as per the requirement, we can create up to 20 columns in body while 10 fields in footer. Even we can have a preload for footer fields also, and also account to post we can set for footer fields. So next is we have this quantity preload formula. The purpose of this field is, so here we can enter the formula. Let us assume we have a requirement that two quantity columns are there, namely length and breadth. So as this is a fifth column, input we have entered the variable as EAE. We want this column before quantity. Another column breadth EAF before quantity. So two columns are created. Now the result must appear in the quantity preload formula, that is EAE into EAF. Length into breadth will be actual quantity. So let us check this. So here we may have selected some product. 10 into 100. Automatically in quantity 1000 is loaded. If our quantity is something like 10 into 50, 500 will be loaded. Like this, we can have a preload formula for quantity as well. Next is rate preload formula. The purpose of this is we may have so many selling rates. In product master, we have 8 selling rates. So either a user can record their selling rate in any of the 8 fields. So which field, which rate the system have to pick, that variable we are specifying here. The variable for overall sales rate is CC, while for party wise sales rate it is CG. If anyone requires overall sales rate, then they have to enter CC here, or if they require party wise sales rate, then they have to enter CG over there. Next is entry restrict condition. So the purpose of this is sometimes the business people will have some requirement, like they want to restrict to prepare a invoice if the amount is less than 100 rupees. So they want to prepare a bill when it is more than 100 only. So if the amount, that is gross amount, is less than 100, then they don't want to prepare a invoice. In such a way, by specifying the condition here, we can restrict the saving of a invoice. So it will be like, if we try to prepare an invoice for rupees 50, it will display a message showing that there is some restriction condition. The user will not be able to save the entry. That was about edit screen tab. So here, if any column is to be deleted, then we use this delete line. If a new column is to be included in between, then we use this insert line. After making any changes to update, we are using update. Create formula will display the variables. We have some more settings in inventory options. Don't input product. So if we check this option, the user will not be able to input the product. The product column will be hidden. Directly we are getting account here without getting product column. Next is, in the same way, if anyone wants to hide quantity and rate column, then they use this option. Quantity and rate columns will be hidden. If we check this hide rate and gross, so at that time rate and gross columns will be hidden. Next is pick rates from order. If we check this option, pick rates from order, then rates will be picked from sales order in a sales document. In case of purchase voucher, it will be picked from purchase order. Input account for footers. If we check this option, just now we created one footer field. Now this field will appear automatically so that the user can select the service charges related account over here. By default, this field will not appear. When we check the option input account for footers, then only that field will appear. Next is input as counter bill. If we check this option, counter wise they can have a separate sequence number. Input quantity breakup. So this is applicable for to have a breakup. So like warehouse wise breakup can be entered for any selected product. So let us see this. When we check the option, then we'll get this quantity breakup where user can enter quantity wise breakup, how many they are placing in main warehouse and how many they are placing in reserved. In such a way they can enter the quantities. So one more option related to this is there in preferences. Let us discuss that option also. In preferences, inventory tab, you will find allow multiple rates for different item sizes. When we check this option, for earlier we were entering the main and reserved quantity in the same column. Here we have an option that we can enter different quantity with different rates. So 5 numbers that is placed with different rate. So here this is the inventory tag. By default, warehouse will be the inventory tag. Either we have an option, we can change it to other tag also. Next is input bin location. If we check this option, then only the user will be able to choose the bin in a sales invoice or purchase voucher. Don't pop up bin selection after quantity. By default, it will appear after quantity. If we check this option, it will appear before quantity. So next is hire purchase behavior. If you want this document to be as a hire purchase document, then we have to check this option. For that, we have a separate module. Don't input batch numbers. So sometimes we may have recorded the batch number in the delivery note. The same batch numbers we want to continue in the sales invoice also. It is not required to display once again batch number over here. In such cases, we have to check this option, don't input batch numbers. So fix update stocks. So in a sales invoice or purchase voucher, we have a checkbox called update stocks. Sometimes if user forgets to check this option, update stocks option, then stocks will not be updated. So every time if anyone wants to update their stocks, then they have to use this fix update stocks. Now the update stocks checkbox will not appear in a sales invoice. Every time it will be checked only. Apply rates schemes. We have a separate scheme master. If scheme is applicable for this document, then we need to check. Pick free scheme quantity after every line. So the free quantity will be picked in the next line if we check this. Display unit name before quantity. Unit name will appear before quantity. Hide rate and gross for normal users. So rate and gross will be hidden for normal users. Next, load account from product details. If we check this option, then automatically the sales account will be loaded from the product master. So let us see this. For one product FG1, we may have selected sales account 4%. For another cover, we may have selected sales account 12.5. That is sales account 14.5. Now when I select cover, the account loaded is sales account 14.5%, while if I select FG1, the account loaded is sales account 4%. Next is allow expired batches to be selected. By default, Focus will not allow you to sell the expired goods. If some of the companies, if they require the expired batches also in the pop-up, in such cases, we need to check this option. Next is restrict the item from being repeated in the entry. If we check this option, the user will not be able to select the same product twice. So he have to select one product only once in a document. So next is input discount category. To get the discount category, we have to check this. Next, product rate. So if it is editable, anyone can modify the product rate. So if we choose the option as can't be below cost or can't be changed, user will not be able to change, or it will not allow you if the rate is less than the cost. So next is reserve stock. So by default, it's not applicable. If you want to reserve the stock for in this document, then choose this option, reserve stock. Release stock, we will be able to release the stock. Or if we check this option, allow this option to be selected during entry. At the time of entry, user will be able to select whether it's a reserve stock or release stock. He will be getting a checkbox like this. So to use COGS posting, by default NA it's not applicable. So if you want to use, then choose the option post using overall rate and also specify the cost of issue account as well as sales and purchase account so that the amounts will be posted to the accounts. Batch pick manual means manually the user have to select the batch, while if they choose either based on manufacturing date or based on expiry. So as per the manufacturing date and expiry date, it will be loaded. Load batches before quantity. By default, it will be loaded after entering the quantity. If we check this option, it will be loaded before quantity. Select batches even if stocks are not updated. So the user will be able to select the batch even it's not updated. Let us assume we have to create one extra field in the header to record the transport name by which the goods have been sent. Another assumption, we have to create an informative column in body to record the color of the vehicle. So let us see how to create these extra fields in header and columns in a body. For that we are using transaction settings Voucher Wizard. Here we have a tab called edit layout. We are using this tab. To create any field in a header, we are using this header fields part. To create any new column, we are using this body fields part. So here, as per the assumption, we require transport name. Which type of data we are going to enter in this? Length. Next, normal. So if we change the input style as hidden, it will be like a hidden or it will be like a read only. Input window, we have an option that if a drop down is required, in such cases we can use combo box. In case of combo box, some default value must be loaded automatically in the drop down. So those default values we have to specify in place of selection list. Here we have to enter 0, say some transport name, 1, like this. The transport names must be separated with commas with incremental as 0, 1, 2, like that. So an extra field is created in a header in a form of drop down so that the user can select either any transport name. Next is to create a body column, that is informative column. We are using the same edit layout. In place of body fields, type the heading for the column, which type of data we are going to record in that. So you will find automatically a column is created. By default, the column will appear in the ending of the screen. So let us assume we sold a laptop. The color of the laptop is say some red. So now the user can record the additional information values through this column. Even this column can be printed in an invoice. Let the client be expecting the previous purchase rate in a sales invoice so that by seeing the purchase rate, he may decide the selling price of the product. Another assumption, let the client may require the previous selling rate to the same customer at the time of billing so that he can sell on the same price. These things can be achieved through display info. Now we are going to discuss a display info tab which is there in Voucher Wizard. As per the assumption, to get the previous purchase rate in a sales invoice, select the document where the information is to be displayed. So we require the information in sales invoice. Then we are using this display info from where we are getting the data. As per our first assumption, we require the purchase rate in a sales invoice. That's why choose the option as purchase transactions in a display. Here check this product and include the columns. What are the columns to be displayed in a sales invoice? So let us assume we require voucher number, date, and product name, quantity, and rate. We require all these columns to be displayed in a sales invoice. Update, close. Now in a sales invoice, we are getting this part. So what are the columns we have included? Those columns will appear over here. So now after selecting any particular product, so it will display the previous purchase rate of this product, so that the user will be able to decide on which price he want to sell now. So the price is 29,000 and 30,000. So he may go with either 32,000 or 33,000. So he can decide his selling price. That was our first assumption. So for the second assumption, what we have to do is, here in the second assumption, we are not getting the date from purchase transactions. We are getting the rate from sales transactions. That too filtered by the customer. So it must display the selling price of the same customer. It must not display the selling price from other customers. For that purpose, we have checked this account also. So update, close. Now in a sales invoice, the rate previously we sold to Mahesh the laptop on 33,000. Now when I prepare a new bill to Mahesh, and if I select the same product, then it will display the selling rate as 33,000, so that we can bill to the Mahesh on the same price. So that was the second assumption. Sometimes clients may require to restrict some of the fields to some users. Set default value in each field or column, field-wise restriction conditions, display field or column name as per the user, display field or column position as per the user, make any field read-only or hidden, width flexibility, and many more can be achieved through Views, which is a tab in Voucher Wizard. To create user-wise views, we are using Voucher Wizard. Here, use this Views tab. Type the name. So let us assume we require a view with the name View1. So in this View1, let us assume we want to hide some fields. Say some sales account must not be displayed and update stocks must not be displayed. So we can hide some fields or columns. So this View1 we can allot to one user. So check the username to whom this view is to be allocated. Then save. So not only we can create any number of views like this. So to create a new view, once again type the new name. So this view 2, in which all the fields are visible, all the fields are normal. This view I am providing to super user. Like this we can have so many views. Those views can be allocated to the users. Sometimes the user may be expecting to change the name. Instead of customer, he may require some other name as buyer. So that can be achieved. The name of this can be changed through views. In a view 2, let us assume we require buyer. Now the name is changed over here. Not only the names of fields, even we can change the names of the columns as per the user requirement. So next is we can set the default values also over here. So instead of typing the same quantity, let this be loaded as 1. So even we can type the default value for accounts also. So in this case we have to use the sequence number of the account. So let us assume the sequence number of sales account is 4. So we can enter 4. So every time sales account will be loaded into that particular screen. So not only for quantity, for any column or any field we can have default values. Say Next, restrict formula. The purpose of restrict formula is we have a requirement like if the discount is greater than 10%, then the user must not be able to save the entry. So AA is the input variable for discount. So if AA is greater than 10, then some message must be displayed like discount must be less than. Even this message will appear at the time of entry. Must be less than 10%. So this condition we have given in view 1. Now if user tries to enter the discount more than 10%, then he will be getting a message. Discount must be less than 10%. This message we have given in Voucher Wizard. In this way, field-wise restriction condition can be recorded. Even the message will also appear. So here we have a width flexibility also. So for example, we may require some more width for the quantity column. So for that, take the maximum size as 4. Now the quantity column will up. So we did that in view 1. Quantity column. Earlier by default size will be with a very less width. So now we have taken maximum size. That's why the quantity column is maximum. So not only these things, through Voucher Wizard, we can also move the position of the fields or columns. So for that we have to use this move up and move down. So let us assume we require customer name before sales account. So for in view 1, when we use this move up, now customer is moved before sales account. In the same way, sometimes we may require this color column immediately after product name. That is achieved through move up. After item name, the user will be able to select the color. So let us check this. So customer name, then we are getting immediately after product, we are getting this color. As we have hidden the sales account, it's not appearing over here. At the time of product creation, we may have given some code. So sometimes the user may be expecting the code immediately after selecting the product. That is possible through insert info column. So simply select from which table the column is to be inserted, then code. Immediately after item, the product code is inserted in view 1. So let us check this. When I select, its code is appearing over there. Few more options are there in Voucher Wizard. This option body read only, to make the whole body as a read only. We have this option if we want to make this screen or this view as a authorize only, then we need to check this. So available on web. Next is to insert any line in between we are using, to delete any line we are using this. So always load the documents from links. So if we choose this option, so every time in this view it must be loaded from a link. So external functions, this is to integrate some external functions with written in VB or VC++. Those things can be integrated over here. When we save a sales invoice, at that time we can integrate. So this is this ActiveX program ID and function name will be provided by the programmers. By using those ActiveX program ID and function name, we can integrate the same into Focus. So this is about Voucher Wizard. We hope this will be useful for you.